Hey everyone, this is Ruan. Welcome to a video where I'm going to be bringing you through how to use AI and SEO to generate better results. So AI is a major point of conversation right now with SEO and search engine marketers and digital marketers. And today I'm going to give you some practical, effective tips that you've probably never heard before that are going to increase your website rankings, but ultimately, if you're doing this for other businesses, it's going to increase your profit margins. So on the screen here, you can see is a tool called splashdash.ai. And this tool is going to allow us to connect to several different APIs. One of them in this particular example is going to be the Ahrefs API. And so you can see that in a conversational format, I'm going to be discussing a client of ours, which is CT Moving and Storage, and one of their competitors, VR Moving, which is another local moving business in the area. And so my main goal really is to do some market research for this video and show you how I would approach an SEO campaign or a digital marketing campaign to get this business more results. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask what data can it grab from Ahrefs. I'm going to start there. And I like asking Splashdsh this prompt because it allows Splashdsh to tell me exactly the data that it can generate from Ahrefs. And once it pulls that data back, I'm going to be able to prompt Splashdsh to get data directly pulled from Ahrefs to make my marketing campaign more effective. So here's a couple of things that it can do. One is a SERP overview. The other one is a keyword explorer, finding some matching terms, related terms, cost per click, cost per search, difficulty, search volume, and there really is an entire realm of different things that we're going to grab for this. So we're going to be using several of these key functions to come up with an SEO plan that our team is then going to execute for CT Moving and Storage to get them better organic SEO results. So to start, whenever I'm working with a new client, one of the first things that I like doing is checking the domain authority of the domain. So for Ahrefs, I believe they call this domain rating. And what a domain rating is it's a scale of 0 to 100 of how likely that term is to rank on the Google search engine. So let's go ahead and highlight this information and then grab the domain of our client, which is CT Moving and Storage. And I'm going to go ahead and ask it to crawl this domain. And that domain is going to be our client's. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and give me the strength of CT Moving and Storage's backlink portfolio, which ultimately determines its domain rating. One thing to really make sure that you understand is that the domain rating is not necessarily a metric by Google. It is a metric assigned by these different tools like SEMrush and Moz and Ahrefs. And so as a return here, you can see that CT Moving and Storage currently has a domain rating of 14 on Ahrefs. Which is relatively low, I would say, especially in the local market. But what's really cool about this is I can now take the competitor's domain rating and I can now put this one, and now I can kind of see what the comparison is going to be, so I can clearly have an understanding if I can even rank against my competitor by comparing their different domain ratings. So now that I understand C2 Moving and Storage is a 14, really quickly when I work with a new client, I like to really understand if I'm going to need to build higher quality backlinks. So in this case, for this business, it has a domain rating of 0. And so if I were competing with this domain, I could tell you that it would probably be easy for me to rank against this competition. Now, if I wanted to find more competition, let's say I typed in moving companies near me, I can then go to see more about the market to see if I can outrank some of these locations or some of these businesses. So I'm going to take this domain here, one other local moving company it looks like. I've never heard of these guys. They're on a Google site. I'm not going to use them. But let's use RT Movers, for example. And now I'm going to say, now run it for this domain. And I'm just going to grab a couple of domains from the search engines. And then I'm going to take that information and go ahead and come up with an estimate of how many backlinks I might need to rank for this service area specifically. So here's another one. This is a local competitor. This one is called McCabe's Moving. And once I have that information inside of Splashdsh, I'm now going to be able to use the power of OpenAI to use context to keep conversating with this data. And so now that I've run this for RT Mover CT, I can now see that their current domain rating is 1.5. So in this standard, we're still winning with our domain rating of 14, which means if CT Moving and Storage, our client, publishes a web page on Google, they're much more likely to rank than these other domains because their domain ratings are significantly lower. So I'm going to run my last crawl here inside of Splashdsh. And now what I've done is I've built context around this. I've gone ahead and run just about 4 calls to figure out what these domain ratings are so I can properly come out with an SEO strategy. So now that I have this context, I'm going to go ahead and now compare these domains and put in table format. And what's going to happen now is that data that's been pulled in, OpenAI is now going to take that information, put it into a table so I can have a quick glance of the competitive landscape of moving services within this area. And you can see that CT Moving and Storage compared to these other domains have the highest domain rating. And so we don't want to stop there. So now that I understand that I have a higher domain rating, I know that my focus should not be to build more backlinks in this situation. Instead, my focus should be to build more content. And that's exactly what's really cool about the Keyword Explorer tools. So in this feature that you can see, we can get detailed insights into specific keywords, matching terms, we can get cost per click estimates, we can get difficulty and search volume. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the overview, which is going to give me general overview of different keywords. And in the prompt, I'm simply just going to say, provide me with 10 recommended keywords for a moving company. And what this is going to do, what Splashdasher is going to do, is it's going to use its best judgment when it calls on Ahrefs in this specific situation, which is just one of the APIs that we have integrated. And this is going to run the call, and then it's going to show me a return of some of the keywords that a moving company may want to rank for. But further than that, it's also going to show me the searches per month, the clicks that potentially we can get, the cost per click on average, the difficulty. And then once we have that information, now I can go ahead and get some related keywords based on this data. So now that I know the main term is moving company with 55,000 searches per month, this would be the term that I would use in my title tags, in my meta descriptions, on my home page, in my local service ads, in my Google Ads targeting. Anywhere that I want to use this information, I want to use this term because it has the most volume. But now that I have the root keyword, I can now find suggestions. Simply, I can just write inside of Splashdasher, find related keywords based on this term, provide me at least 10. And what Splashdasher is going to do using that context is it's going to give me related terms that movers may want to target, and using the Ahrefs database inside of conversational format. And keep in mind, my goal here by the end of this video is to have a clearly laid out SEO strategy and plan that I can take to my team and execute based on some of the data that is available directly inside of Ahrefs. So now here's some of the 10 related keywords that are going to appear for moving the category in general. So you can see some of the keywords are going to be completely irrelevant to moving itself because they're thinking just general moving. So you may want to use, in this kind of situation, moving services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this and I'm going to say, now do this for moving services, which could be a better target than, let's say, moving, because generally speaking, Ahrefs, SEMrush, all of these online tools, they're thinking of U-Haul. Our customer in this situation is not moving, they're not providing self moves, they're more so doing it as a service. And so once I have some of my keywords dialed in, I can create a PPC strategy, I can create a website sitemap, I can create anything that's going to allow me to generate more content directly on my customer's website with having some of the keywords to target. So with that being said, one thing that I'm going to do is, now that I have some of the terms that I'm going to want to be targeting, I'm now going to search for the top pages on ctmovingandstorage.com to get a better understanding of the different competitive landscape that's on there. So I'm actually going to put in a few domains inside of here. And in this case, I'm going to do ctmovingandstorage.com and the other competitors that I mentioned before. And when you do this, what's going to happen is Ahrefs is going to make 3 different calls. One of them is going to be to CT Moving to find out the top keywords on that site. And then one of them is going to be for the other competitors that are on there. And now that you can see, it's going to make 3 calls because there were 3 inputs. And then I can utilize this information to compare that data, present that data, write an email with that data, or use OpenAI's leverage to do this. So as you can see, for CT Moving and Storage, some of the best keywords that are being found here are Southington Moving Companies, Moving and Storage Connecticut, Connecticut Movers. It's showing me the best position for each of these terms, and it's showing me the search volumes for these terms, so I can quickly at a glance see the health of this moving company in that area. And then it's going to show me the competitors in the situation, the domains that I put. And as you can see, they don't have as much keyword volume as C2 Moving does. And this is going to give me a good indication that our client is leading within this market. But I do want to find potential SEO opportunities by searching some of the competitors' keyword phrases. And so what I can do now that I have this data, especially because it's some competitive data, I can now put this information into a list in a simple table, put these keywords into a simple table, and the keywords are going to, the table is going to provide me at a quick glance a couple of things. One of them is the terms, the volume, the cost per click, and the competition score. And this is going to allow me to filter a lot of the different targeting options that we have available with Google Ads or SEO. And now that I have all of these competitive terms, what I can do is I can highlight this information and I can filter this by putting it into a potentially table format to really identify the keywords that we may want to target. So I'm going to reply to this, and then I'm going to put this into a table format, include only term and volume. And then from there, OpenAI is going to talk to that context window. It's going to sort these keywords to put them into a table format. And imagine you can do this with dozens of domains. You can do this with 50 domains, and you can get granular data. For this example, I'm trying to do it really quickly just to show you how you would go about this. And from there, you would then have a lot of the terms directly put into this table that you can see here. And now I kind of have a good understanding of some of the keywords that I'd want to target for this campaign. Southington Moving Companies, Moving and Storage, Connecticut Movers, Moving Company Connecticut, with those associated search volumes for these terms. What's really cool about this is I can then take these terms and I can prompt it again, and I can say, give me the total search volume. And if I was bidding for these terms on, let's say, PPC, using a 10% click-through rate through ads, and then 10% of people are going to click on my ad from the total search volume, so that's going to give me the 10% of the amount of clicks. And then I could say, using a 2% conversion rate and a $2,500 or $3,500 average sale value, now what I can do is I can start to produce estimates of return on investments from the different keywords that we're targeting. Normally, downloading a spreadsheet, doing some math, all of that stuff is extremely unreliable because you don't have a context, whereas this is going to be able to bring this information all to you. So now I can start to generate some sort of PPC strategy for the client and target some of their content based on SEO. So as you can see, the result here is telling me that the total search volume is 3,570 searches. So that's all of those keywords combined, with a 10% click-through that would give me 357 clicks. At a 2% conversion ratio, that's approximately 7 conversions. My return on investment, or the revenue that I would generate by targeting these keywords, would be $24,990. So you can imagine when you go to a customer and you show them this level of information this quickly, you can quickly start to see how you can scale your efforts by using AI and SEO. And obviously, as you guys know, you can then highlight these keywords like I mentioned before, and then we can start to generate an article for these different terms to make sure that we're targeting SEO keywords properly. So using this context, I can now write an article targeting these terms and then bold the keywords when mentioned. So I can actually see when Splashdot mentions these terms, when they're bolded, to make sure that it's mentioning a lot of the keywords that we're trying to target. So ultimately, having these keywords, writing these articles, providing these ROI expectations are going to be able to give me a good estimate of how much value there is inside of a marketplace. The flip side of this too is that now that we have this concrete data, we can now take this research to a whole different level by targeting different keyword phrases. So our client does not just provide moving. In this case, I'm going to ask Splashdot to perform keyword research on the following terms. And I'm going to do moving companies. I'm going to do storage solutions. I'm going to do packing. I'm going to do interstate moving. I'm going to do out of state moving, and then I'm also going to do senior moving. And so now, in this case scenario, I'm going to take some of their different services, and now I'm going to kind of do this process over again, just with different terms. And so you can see how quickly we can start to supercharge our SEO efforts when we leverage AI the right way. So now that it's talked to the API, so now what it's going to do is it's going to run a separate API call for all of these different terms, as you can see. So we have moving companies with the terms and the information there. We have packing. We have the related keywords that it's also recommending based on the database. And all of this information can be used to generate a better SEO strategy, a better PPC strategy, and more importantly, important keywords. So a lot of these terms that I put were just a little too specific for this data set. But ultimately, when you kind of really niche in on the services that you provide, you can get better data. For example, on CT Moving and Storage site specifically, we have moving, storage, and packing. So that's kind of why I picked those three. So that's kind of how we would use that to generate some keyword ideas, cost per click ideas, and ultimately return on investment. But speaking of cost per click, the really cool thing about this is if you went up to this section here and I wanted to see these terms and I wanted to gather the CPC for each terms, which would mean the cost per click. When you think of cost per click, think of how much you would pay Google to get someone to visit your website after searching a particular term. That's important to advertisers because when the cost per click is higher, that generally means people are bidding more for that term, and that ultimately means marketers have found that that term gives them the best return on investment. So going back to this prompt here, I'm going to go ahead and gather the cost per click for each term and put them in a table. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to basically get this information and organize its cost per click so I can quickly identify and create a PPC strategy that's going to generate more leads, which is really cool because traditionally speaking, you can use keyword research tools and all of that kind of stuff. But right here, you can see it's going to do it pretty quickly. So moving companies, the cost per click is 16. The packing terms, they're a little bit lower. The other terms indicate that there's really not much of a cost per click that we're going to pay for these terms. But if I were to just bid on the keyword moving companies, I can highlight this information and then I can prompt it to give me some of those expectations and those ROI expectations. So if I were to say with a budget of, let's say for this term, $1,000 a month with 10% click-through and 2% conversion at $3,500 sale, provide me an ROI estimate. And I want to kind of explain that math to you. So we're taking a $1,000 budget, we're dividing it in this case by 16, because that's how much it's going to cost us to get a click. And then once we have the total amount of clicks, we're going to take the 2% of how many people visit the website, call that business, book a moving service at the price of $3,500. Then Splashdsh is going to give me a pretty accurate representation of what that return on investment would be. In this case, the return on investment's negative. And this would tell me that I probably shouldn't target this keyword, or I need to increase my average sale per customer. So now let's say I wanted to discover the seasonality of a business by the search volume. And that's what's really cool. This tool, Splashdsh, allows me to view historical information. So if I clicked on the volume history here and replied, I can put show me for the term moving companies. And then I can do only in the year of 2023, put in table format, and show percentage increases and decreases. And what I'm really doing here is I'm basically trying to get an estimate of when it's probably a better time to promote these services based on volume. And so what's cool that's happening here from Splashdsh is it's running an API call to Ahrefs, it's pulling that data, and then it's using Python with OpenAI to actually organize this information. So you can see here that the data that it's pulling in is that in January, 133,000 people searched for moving companies. February, we actually see a decrease, which tells me the moving company is likely going to be a little bit slower in February compared to January if the volumes are correct. Then in March, it picks up 14%. Then in April, it picks up 3%. May, 3%. and then it really starts gradually going down as the seasons change and as it starts to get a little bit colder. So this ultimately, again, I can highlight this information and I can have it provide me with advertising recommendations based on my budget and SEO strategy of when it's the best time to push content during these times, which in this case, it looks like that time would probably be in May, which directly aligns with what our clients have told us are, generally speaking, the busiest moving months. So now that I have some pretty clear keywords to target, I understand the local marketplace, I can now perform some basic technical SEO. And one of the features that I like using is the broken backlinks section here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put CT moving and storage inside of the broken backlinks function here. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me a list of broken backlinks that are associated with this. And broken backlinks are they're easy opportunities for you, especially if somebody's mentioned you before and they don't mention you anymore because the link was removed. This report is going to show me exactly where those mentions happened, and I can reach out to those webmasters and get them to link back to my site. And ultimately, what that's going to do is it's going to increase my domain rating. Now, as you can see here, there are no broken backlinks for this site, which is good news, which means all of the domains that are pointing to CT moving and storage are still pointing there, and we're not losing any rank dilution or backlink juice from that. And so from there, I can now take in all of this context from this chat, and I can ask Splashdot to create a summary about its recommendations, what it found, and then I can take that summary and execute. So let's go ahead and see what it says here. So this is the SEO summary that Splashdot is creating. It's taking that domain rating information. It's taking all of the different keywords that it's positively ranking for. It's showing me the top 1 to 4 keyword phrases. It's showing me that there's no backlinks. This is kind of doing an SEO audit, which is great, using the context of the information that I prompted. And then it's telling me its non-biased opinion of how CT moving and storage compares to some of the competition that's within the local area. So what do I do with this information? Well, there's a lot that I can do. One is I can create a targeted SEO campaign, adding web pages, using the keywords to prompt, going specific keyword by keyword to prompt better content. Two is I can create an advertising campaign, get clear CPC, get clear ROI expectations down to the service using the metrics that I put into Splashdot, such as cost per click, impressions, click-through rate, etc. All of this at the end can be summarized in an email that you can send a customer, whether it's a customer that you're working with, whether it's a customer that you're looking to sell to. And the great part about this is that it utilizes all of, in this case, Ahrefs' available tools through their API that Splashdot licenses. So in this case scenario, there's a lot more that I can show you with this, but I really wanted to cover the foundations, which is just the research step of formulating an okay SEO plan. I could have done a lot better in this video with better examples and different data points, which I'm going to show you in the near future, but ultimately this is for you to play with. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.